Take a minute to read this problem to acquaint yourself with its given information and what it's asking. Here we are going to find the amount of a monthly deposit needed in order to accumulate enough savings. There is a savings formula in our text, but that formula says that we know the monthly savings amount and we're trying to find the accumulated amount. So if you look further through the e-text on page 229, this is the same formula but solved for the payment amount. So this would be a better formula to use in a question like this where the payment amount is what you're looking for. So the next thing we want to do is then identify all of these different parts or variables. We want to find out what is A, APR, N, and Y. Those are the four variables. So let's identify those from the problem setup. So first of all, through reading the problem, I see APR of 4%. So that's fairly simple to identify, but I do just want to make a note that this really, technically, I'm going to write here 0.04 because I must express that in the decimal form. How much should we deposit monthly? That's the PMT. That's the part we want to know. And again, that's the reason we picked this version of that formula. To accumulate $81,000, so that means that A equals 81,000 over 13 years. Well, that means Y is 13. And then the only other thing left is N. Well, in this case, N is implied through this word monthly. Because we're making monthly deposits, N must be 12. So let's rewrite our formula with these substitutions. So we'll have PMT equals 81,000 times 0.04 over 12 all over 1 plus 0.04 over 12. And then this is raised to 12 times 13. Sorry, that's supposed to be a multiply there. And then outside of that expression, minus 1. And then close that last parentheses or bracket. Okay, so this is everything substituted correctly, and now it's just a matter of following order of operations. But maybe part of the question is, well, how do I put this in my calculator? Because we really don't want to calculate every single piece of this by hand the long way. We have the technology, so let's use it. So let's look now at what the calculator can do. If you have an older model of this calculator, or maybe a different model calculator, that does not vertically align its fractions so that you see clearly a numerator and a denominator, you may have to insert some extra parentheses or extra calculator notation. And that's not very uncommon, especially for older calculators. So some of these actually, though, have been inserted for us, like some that occasionally we have to go back and include, or like the parentheses around just the numerator. For instance, this bracket will become parentheses around just the denominator when we type it into the calculator. There will be an extra notation here of a caret, that caret being the power key, so it says this is the exponent. Other than that, I don't see any additional syntax that is required, but occasionally, again, we may have to put in some extra parentheses. So I'm going to put this in, first of all, the way maybe an older calculator might read that. So that's going to be 81,000 times, and then in parentheses, oops, hang on, let me start over again. I'll divide by 12. Okay, so that's the numerator. Everything's good there. And then divide. This division bar is related to the division bar we see here within the fraction. Okay, and then 2 parentheses, because there's the pink one and then there's the inner blue one. 1 plus 0.04 divided by 12. Close just one of those parentheses. Then use the caret key for the exponent. Now in here, it's showing us the actual exponent. An older calculator may only have the caret, and that's okay. But 12 times 13, close that parentheses. I'm going to use the right arrow to get out of the exponent. Again, an older calculator would not need that additional step. And then minus 1, and then close that last set of parentheses, that one that's in pink. So one fault here is I can't see the entire expression at one time. So I'm kind of trusting that I typed in everything correct the first time, and this is what I get for the payment. And I'd have to round that to the nearest cent. So $396.72. Now, but this is a newer calculator, and hopefully you have the newer operating system on this calculator. I'm going to check the operating system on mine real quick. If I press second and then the plus sign and then enter for about, I see it's 5.4. So if you don't have 5.4, maybe even higher, maybe mine's a little bit out of date because they do release a lot of revisions and things. But if you don't have that, please reach out to me by email, and I can show you how to update this operating system, because what you're going to see next you'll really like. So if you have this newer operating system, instead of writing it out this long way and having just to trust that your parentheses are in the right places, you could use the templates. Now, templates are found a lot of times with the alpha keys. And if you press alpha, you see now everything in green is what you're really pressing here. So there's these function keys at the top, F1, F2, F3, F4, F5. And if I press alpha F1, this is the shortcut to get to the fraction keys. So in this case, if I press enter after that, now I can type in a fraction where it's a template. It's already got a space for a numerator and a denominator, and it looks like a fraction, the way we write it by hand. So we're going to use that this time for the same problem. So again, we'll type in the 81,000 times. And at this point, I now want to introduce that fraction. So if I do alpha y equals enter, it introduces now this fraction. Now there's a fraction in the numerator, so I can do that again. Alpha y equals enter, and I can place this fraction, 0.04 over 12. And I press the right arrow twice to get out of that space. And now I'm in the denominator of the larger fraction. And in the denominator, I have parentheses, 1 plus another fraction. So alpha y equals enter, 0.04. Press the right arrow to get down to the next space. Press the right arrow to get out of the fraction, and then the caret key automatically places me up in the exponent, 12 times 13, and then right arrow to get out of the exponent, minus 1, and close that parentheses. And then when I press enter, notice I get the exact same answer, but the setup, what I've written here in my calculator, looks like what I would write by hand, what the formula looks like. So then there's a little bit less chance for error when just typing in these values in the calculator.